Hello everybody and welcome back to Teachers Talk Money, where I help teachers master their money in order to give back to themselves. Last week's video was all about the finances of marriage, which is one cultural norm that I have tentatively decided to opt out of. However, there are many cultural norms that I decide to opt out of all the time, and one of those, you guessed it, is having children. Similar to how I feel about marriage, not having children is not a financial choice for me, it is a personal choice. Again, I'm not going to dive into the reasons for that choice for me in this video, but if you would like to see a video where I discuss that, please comment down below, I'd love to talk about it. In my marriage video, I talked about how getting married might not actually be that expensive for somebody over time. That is not the case with children. Having children is an extremely financially critical decision, whether or not you decide to. Children are very, very expensive. While it's considered normal to have a child or multiple children without diving into the financials of doing so, I think that this kind of cultural standard is actually really, really irresponsible. Obviously, family planning and financial planning is a huge privilege. I am not talking about people living in poverty. I am talking about the norm of the middle and upper class of just kind of having kids without really looking too deep into it. I believe in making all life and therefore financial decisions intentionally. I make intentional decisions about each and every book that I buy or each and every plant or item of clothing, and so it really boggles my mind that people just kind of have children. Anyone in a financially privileged position, which includes middle and upper income earners, should financially plan for having children. So let's dig into it and talk about the average cost of raising a child. Now, obviously, again, we're working with averages, which do not necessarily apply to individual people. However, they're a very useful jumping off point. Lots of costs go into raising a child, including but not limited to housing, transportation, clothing, food, childcare, and education, and healthcare. That's really important too. I looked around at a couple different sources and they all seem to point to similar figures. According to Investopedia, the average cost of raising a child from 0 to 18 is $285,000. This is for middle income families. And it's important to note that raising any child after the first child is much less expensive. I will put, of course, all of the research and other links that I discuss in this video in the description. So something also to note about this pretty ginormous figure is that it does not include higher education costs. So if you also plan on paying for your child's school, you need to be financially prepared for more than $285,000. Again, averages can be deceiving. If you are already living a very financially intentional life, this figure could be tens of thousands of dollars off. That being said, there is no possible way to make having children an inexpensive thing. You have no idea what the individual needs or wants of any given child will be. So there's no way to set a specific budget for any child, which is why these averages kind of come in handy. So those are the obvious direct costs of raising a child for middle income families. But what I want to discuss now are the hidden financial implications of having a child. This especially applies for women in heterosexual relationships, but can apply to many other people as well. The first hidden financial implication of having children is that, pretty obviously on its face, you have much less time. This isn't directly financial, but for example, if I were to have children, I don't think I would also be able to have Teachers Talk Money on top of my current career job. I also don't think that I would coach a sport because that is extremely time consuming and would take me away from my child a lot. So there are all of these other sort of income opportunities that in my life would be stifled, and that's just one person. The next thing I want to talk about are the career penalties associated with having children, and these are pretty specific to women across the board. Again, obviously not always they could apply to anyone. There is a lot of research on this, but I'm going to link one study below because it does a really good job of summarizing previous research on this as well as doing its own study to kind of add to the narrative. This is an article from the Journal of Marriage and Family. One notable quote being, "Studies have generally found average wage penalties ranging from 5% to 10% per child among women in their 20s and 30s. I thought this was really interesting, and actually in the data discussion in this article they talk about how that sort of ends when a woman reaches her 40s if she doesn't have any younger children at that time. Obviously the things that stick out are that 5 to 10% on average is a huge wage difference. And then the second thing that really sticks out to me is that this is happening in women's 20s and their 30s, which are extremely important for two reasons. Number one, your income that you're earning when you're younger very directly relates to the growth potential for your income. So if you're facing these penalties early on in your career in your 20s, then that is going to have really like a domino effect on your wages for later years, even if you stop seeing the penalty when you get into your 40s. Also, again, to see this wage decrease in your early years means that you're probably going to be investing less in those early years, and that is a huge financial downside because the more you invest earlier on, the way that compound interest works, that is going to have a huge impact on your financial future. So just because you might stop seeing these penalties in your 40s doesn't mean that you're no longer affected in your 40s, because A, you lost a lot of the earning potential from those early years, and B, you're not getting all the compound interest that you could be getting on that money. And that's just talking about wages. That is not even considering what we talked about before, which are the expenses associated with raising children. And something I really liked about this article is that in the data discussion, they also discuss that there is more research that needs to be done on this topic outside of just wage decreases, including when women take career breaks in order to stay at home with kids, etc. So there are a lot of very direct costs and, in my opinion, very many hidden costs that come with raising a child. Again, I would never tell somebody not to have kids. If you want to have kids, it's totally doable. People do it all the time. But if you are considering this choice, you really need to be running the numbers and making sure that you can afford to have children and give them the life that you want. And you need to understand that you could potentially face a lot of hidden costs to raising those children as well, especially if you are a woman. I'm sure there are things that I am not considering, so if you had any thoughts or ideas as I was going through the stuff in this video, please comment below. I'm happy to hear your opinions. Obviously, be respectful. It's kind of hard putting yourself out there in ways where you're going against the tide of what is considered culturally normal. So please be nice in the comments, but please do give me your opinions. Tell me what you think. Let me know if there's anything I didn't consider. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that anyone planning to have kids really weighs the financial decision, and that those of us who are deciding to kind of go against that tide can feel affirmed in the way that we are also making positive financial decisions for our life, in addition to making the life decisions that really resonate with us. Have an amazing week, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!